Welcome back to the second episode of Bride Price, a culture or modern-day slavery. Previously, we heard how in the early 60s, as a result of problems of bride price, a decree was passed by the newly consecrated Bishop Joseph Kiwanuka. The bride price would be standardized to 120 shillings and 3 gourds of local beer. If anyone paid more, the couple would not be married. During that time, there was a runaway bridal fee as the surge of education for girls brought the price high. People would demand 200 or 350 shillings, even reaching 1,000, but not 10,000 shillings. The main question for us today is on the question of culture itself. Is culture static, or is culture a dynamic institution that should change to reflect the needs of society?
So in my own culture, which is the Kitoro culture, there is a bride price where the parents of the man going to marry would give set out known property, either in kind or in cash or both, for various reasons. And some other cultures, they want a token of appreciation. Some other cultures, it is a business. So the woman may bring in cows and wealth, which may also be used for the brothers. So there are different philosophies by various cultures.
In most parts of the West, the price paid is the cow. It's the cow that is exchanged for the bride. Like in other places, like in Uganda, where it is the thigh of the cow instead of the cow itself is the one which you take to the bako. But in the whole of the West, bride price is a condition precedent to any marriage.
Culture is what we make. You know, it's not an abstract thing. It's not something written on stone. You know, it's not something that's coming from God. You know, it's our own making. It's the culture is the things that we actually make. You know, and we can always create a new culture. I mean, long time bride price was cattle. You know, I mean now everybody wants cash. You know. So it's culture, it's based on the people conveniences, and definitely people can change. And this is also the good thing about culture, you know, is that you can always change it, you know, and you can always influence it, and you can always develop new culture.
Let us look again at Kwanjula. Is it true that it's freely given at will and there is no refund? On the surface, it would seem like the ideal custom. But is everyone happy with Kwanjula as it's practiced today?
My Kwanjula in early 50, January 50, it was never a prominent issue involving many people in the village. No, to me, autonomy means the parents want to know the man who is taking you. Normally, the man would come with his uncle, probably brother, probably a senga, a sister of his father. There used to be about 3-4 people, or an elder, or an uncle, and then on the side of the wife, only people at home, a brother, some brothers, and a few sisters, and her senga, the sister of her father, and her mothers. Just they make them a meal and say this is the man, but the way it is now being practiced, I think it is, may I call it foolish? It is foolish, and it's not the custom. It's a different thing altogether. It is not the original custom. It's very expensive. Some people go out of their way to get into loans.
Payment of dowry is unorganized slavery, human slavery. But people don't want to accept that. I did not pay dowry for my wife, but then I became the best child-in-law, son-in-law to that home. Now what culture is it? Just 3 cows, which can cost, our African Eastern cows here can cost even 350, 3 of them, or even 400. And the child is going to be tortured.
But in my clan, we do not actually pay bride price. And that is because a woman in our culture is priceless. When you give me 100 cows, it's like, when you give my parents 100 cows, it's like you're saying I'm worth 100 cows. And yet I'm worth more than that. I'm going to speak for myself. I'd want him to give my parents what he can afford or what he has. I don't want him to be put under pressure to bring a certain amount of things or a particular kind of things. I want him to give what he can, because at the end of the day, this is how I look at it. I look at it like he's just appreciating what my parents have done, raising me and turning me into his wife. And he can just give anything, even if he doesn't.
It's we who makes the culture what it is. And then according to the problems we face, we have right again to say no on what they are doing wrong. But the culture itself is not bad, it's we who are implementing it. We think that women are a source of income.
If such huge sums of money and animals are demanded in exchange for the bride, what's going on in the minds of the parents? How do they view their daughters? And what's the impact on these young girls?
We discovered that almost 40% of the girls in the district were not able to complete primary education. And those who went into P1 would not be able to complete P5, because by around 10, 11, 12, according to the so-called culture here, they think they're already ripe for marriage and they would be married off, and others would be defiled, left, right, and center. And it was some time when we even had about 50% of the girls dropping out before reaching even P7. So we thought we needed to do something. We also discovered that the parents here were taking early marriages as a commercial practice and as a culture. So they kept on marrying off their young girls of 10, 11, 12, 13, and a girl at 16 would be looked at as a very old woman, and they would quickly marry her off because they want to get some cows and some money.
Culture has destroyed most of our children, not only girl child, although girl child is on the forefront. Because in African culture, girl child was being, and still being sold as a chicken. This is a fact people have to accept. And you find in a home where girl children are, parents are happy. They are looking at this girl child as a cow or a goat equivalence. The moment the breasts start coming out, yes, wealth has come in. Eh? You see, in our culture, it's a dollar culture. It is also in our Teso culture. That the song that this hand will handle a council, this hand will handle a shoe, this hand will handle a beer. But that has hampered the development of girl child. Leave alone the girl child being very capable, and they are doing extremely well in academics. And to them, that culture is good, and yet it's very destructive.
I have also noticed that in cases, very few parents or fathers insist on exorbitant bride price because they love their daughters. But where a girl does not have parents, they will ask for very exorbitant bride price. And when it comes to payment, they will not pay. I'll give you an example of one time when we asked for a nominal, because of the culture again, we asked for a nominal sort of dowry for our niece whom we had seen through school, and she was an engineer and all that. And later on, the clan really blamed my husband. They said, no, we should have asked for a lot of money because this girl was educated. And this is another thing which bothers me. Now we are putting value to educated girl. Because she's educated, you have to pay more. And yet it is your parents' duty to educate you. They don't educate you in order to sell you. They educate you because it is their duty to educate you, and they would like you to be to be able to look after yourself. Yes. But now there is a price tag on educated girl.
My father, he was an extremely open-minded man, and he would say it. And since I was a little girl, I can never forget that. To anyone, you know, who say, oh, would like your daughter, we are going to give you this and that. He would say, my girl is not for sale.
My clan's people were surprised for me to tell them that there will be no bride price, and even of bringing things at the introduction, you know. For us, we said, these young people have agreed to live together. They are coming to our home to see where the girl comes from and to get permission. So it is a ceremony, a party.
The first issue that MIFUMI is concerned with is that of forced demand or payment of bride price. Is there some truth in the argument that bride price has now been turned into a business, that of selling women?
This thing as it is, bride price as it is now, is not a cultural practice. It actually is a different social practice, commercialized, and it has totally distorted what it was before. I don't think in the traditional society where bride price was used, those conditions as we see now, contractual obligations where you're forced to sign and refund, forced payment, I don't think those were there in the original society. Very many people do not know how big a problem this thing is, how pervasive it is, affecting very many people in the countryside. The majority, 70% of people in this country live in rural areas and marry under this custom.
I still think that this is very one-sided. If the custom cherishes women, what does it do to men? Is it placing women higher than men? Now, as far as customs are concerned, just the fact that a custom seems to provide certain values, there are priorities within those values that should be considered when deciding on whether the whole custom should be accepted or not.
Religion, it grows in the, I mean, it takes the influence of the culture that it grows within, you know. So definitely the interactions between culture and religion is huge, you know, and and marriage traditions are the same, you know, like, you know, Muslim Ugandans, they would have, yes, some a Muslim ceremony somehow, but it's, after all, it's a Ugandan.
The repugnancy clause provides for customs to be subjected to the repugnancy test to determine whether they are consistent with the laws of natural justice, equity, and good conscience. If they are not, then they fail the test and cannot be used in the courts of law.
When we want to see whether a given culture should pass a test as to whether it should be upheld by courts or not, we can subject it to the repugnancy test. But that is not all. A culture may not be repugnant, but at the same time unconstitutional. You see? But in my opinion, any culture that is repugnant must be unconstitutional also, because it's unreasonable.